This is a challenge to Congress like no challenge that Trump has ever challenged before. That was a horrible way of saying it, but Trump is presenting Congress with a gigantic challenge, and it's a challenge to Congress's power. And why do we say that? Well, good morning, I'm Jake Sherman, and welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It is Monday, January 5th, 2026. Let's get into the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, what Congress will want to know about Venezuela. Number two, an interview with John Thune on the occasion of his one-year anniversary as Senate Republican leader. And number three, a first look at Q4 fundraising. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. It was a relatively long break by December standards. We didn't have any big deadlines besides the Obamacare cliff, which we've already talked a ton about and is very important and something we're going to be covering a ton going forward. But clearly the biggest story in the world today is President Donald Trump's ousting of Nicolás Maduro in Caracas, and where this leaves the United States, and for our purposes, Congress. This is a challenge to Congress like no challenge that Trump has ever challenged before. That was a horrible way of saying it, but Trump is presenting Congress with a gigantic challenge, and it's a challenge to Congress's power. And why do we say that? Well, number one, Trump administration officials spent weeks telling Congress that they were not interested in regime change in Venezuela. That's exactly what the goal was. There's no question about that. Nicolás Maduro is now in a jail in New York City, and this message was mostly communicated by Marco Rubio, the former Senate Intelligence Committee chair, who would have never stood for that kind of thing when he was in the Senate. And there are senators listening to this, and many of them will be nodding along and remembering that Marco Rubio would have not stood for those kinds of claims when he was in the Senate. Trump also told voters in 2024, in 2020, and 2016 that he was not interested in occupying countries, and he's focused on ending conflicts. But now Trump says he is not afraid to put troops on the ground in Venezuela, and Marco Rubio spent all day Sunday on the shows, all day, saying that, basically downplaying the idea that the U.S. is going to be running Venezuela, because Trump said it. And then on Sunday night on Air Force One, Trump said, yeah, we're going to be running Venezuela. Don't ask me that question because you're going to get an answer that's going to get me in trouble, is what he said, effectively, not a quote. But he said, we're in charge in Venezuela. Okay, so today we're going to have Rubio, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Dan Kane are heading to the Hill. That's where they're coming to see members of Congress, the top lawmakers on HASC, SASC, Armed Services, Foreign Relations, Foreign Affairs, and the Gang of Eight. Trump will talk to Republicans on Tuesday. Here are the general contours of how we're thinking of this based on conversations with dozens of lawmakers and aides yesterday. Number one, these are the questions Congress is going to be asking. Will there be troops in the ground in Venezuela? He says he's not afraid, Trump, but Rubio and other officials are downplaying that. How does the Trump administration expect to secure control of Venezuelan oil without U.S. troops? Are they just going to allow oil companies to go in with no sort of, protection against any sort of other outside forces? What if there's unrest in Venezuela during this transition, and those are air quotes, transition period? Does the administration plan to just sit on a bunch of warships in the Caribbean and not enter Venezuela if there's some big skirmish? What does the administration plan to do in Cuba and Colombia? Trump on Air Force One last night said, or Lindsey Graham said, just wait, for Cuba, effectively, something to that effect, intimating that Cuba's going to be next. Democrats will obviously press administration officials about that testimony that were not seeking regime change in Venezuela. They're also hammering Trump for abandoning, for the moment, his focus on prices and cost. At the same time, there is political risk for Democrats, which is getting rid of Maduro is a good thing. Almost everybody admits that. It's already happened. So they need to find a message that's not muddled and move on. Cuban House Republicans are a huge power center here, rather. Mario Diaz-Balart, Carlos Jimenez, Maria Elvira Salazar, all three of them are very important to watch. They are close allies, though, of Maria Corina Machado, who was banned from running for re-election and who Trump says cannot run Venezuela in this post-Maduro time period. This will also be a clarifying period for the GOP's future. The America First crew, the America Only crew versus the more hawkish members of the GOP. That will be something very interesting to watch. And again, House Republican leadership is going to have to navigate a conference that's going to want to talk about nothing besides cost and some about Obamacare. This is not something that Republicans are going to be able to say, this is up to the White House. We have now captured a foreign leader in a foreign country, and the president says we are going to occupy and run said country. Congress has a role here. They will not be able to say, I didn't see the tweet, I didn't see the X, I didn't see the Truth Social, I'm not involved in this issue. Congress has a role in foreign policy. Congress is not a potted plant. Thank you. I'm going to end my TED Talk there. Number 2 story of the morning, Andrew DeSiderio spoke to John Thune about his first year as Senate Republican leader. The big news to me here is that Thune said that any bipartisan healthcare deal would need to come together in the next month. Remember, those Obamacare premium subsidies have expired. There's a vote in the House this week. The Senate is going to need to pick that up, or maybe not. But the next step after it passes the House, which it's going to pass the House of Representatives, unless something crazy happens. It's going to pass the House and go to the Senate. And the idea, at least voiced by Republicans, is that the Senate amends it and sends it back. So Thune says he's not averse to a compromise that includes a pared back extension of Obamacare subsidies. That is big news. There's a bunch of other stuff in there as well from Andrew on Thune reflecting on his role and how he handles Trump. He thinks he has gotten to a good place with Trump, which is a good place to be with a guy like Trump. Number 3 story of the morning, Illinois Senate candidate and Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy raised $3.6 million during the last 3 months of 2025 for a Senate bid. That's a scoop from Ali Mutnick. He ends the year with more than $15 million in the bank. That's the race to replace Dick Durbin against Robin Kelly and Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. And with that, leave us a rating and review. You can subscribe to Punchbowl News at punchbowl.news. Have a great day. Welcome back, and stay safe.